Hi guys. So we're going to start today right away with a joke. What do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. Get it? An imposter. All right, so today's learning objective is to be able to write a works cited page at the end of your thesis paper and use in-text citations within the thesis paper. You must use at least 3 different credible sources, that is, websites or articles, in your notes and your final paper. So your thesis paper will have a works cited page that should look something like this. At the very end of the paper, you will have the header works cited at the top of the page, and then you will cite at least 3 sources that you used to find information, right? So this is an article called 10 Tips on Writing the Living Web. This looks like a book written by this author, Dino Faluga, and this looks like an article written by this author, Claire Langhammer. All right, so here's how you format a works cited entry. This right here would be one works cited entry, this would be another, etc. The format of the works cited entry is based on what type of source it is, whether it's a book that you're citing, a magazine article, a newspaper article, or a website. So here are the 3 different ways that you cite them. Basically, guys, these are very similar, but they'll have slightly different formatting depending on what type of source it is. So for a book, you put the author's last name and the author's first name, then the title of the book in italics, then the publication details, and the medium of publication would be print for a book. Magazine and newspaper articles are cited very similarly in the works cited page: author's last name and first name, title of the article, title of the periodical, that means the newspaper title like New York Times, day, month, year, pages, and again, medium of publication would be print. A website or online article is very similar as well, but you have to put the URL, which is this web address up here as well, right? You might notice that there's this weird indentation. You use your ruler like this to make that indentation. All right, so it is slightly different, right? You have your URL, at least, for the website, and slightly different things in the works cited entries depending on what type of source it is. Mostly you guys will be using websites because we're doing this from home. A really cool thing about ProQuest is that they already do the works cited entries for you. So there is a place on ProQuest, and remember, you log in with username Ledgered capital L and password's the same thing, Ledgered capital L. If you were finding an article on either of these 2 portals, they will give you the option for them to cite, to essentially write your works cited entry for you. All right, so if you were choosing a social media prompt or research question, and this is very cool, guys. This SIRS rescue researcher, or issues researcher, portal, it has really great articles that are split into 2 different viewpoints, like yes and no. Anyway, so we'll pick this article, and notice over here it says cite. If you click on this link, you can literally just copy their perfectly formatted works cited entry and paste it here. Okay? And the same thing goes for the ProQuest portal. If you're not using a ProQuest article, and let's say you're using a Newsella article, you can go to this website, easybib.com, and follow these instructions. So you hit create citations when you first get to the site. Then your source is going to be a website, so you click website. And then you paste the URL. I already copied it from the Newsella web address bar. Okay? Then you hit search, and it's going to ask you to confirm that this is the right article and ignore all the crazy ads. You hit cite. It's asking you to confirm that this is all correct. It is, so I'm going to hit continue. And then it's going to ask you to try to fill in some of the information that is missing. So I know that the author is usually present in Newsella. So what we want to do is we actually want to go back and look. Here, under the picture with the caption, is typically where they put the author. Even though we have these authors from USA Today, it was adapted or changed by the Newsella staff. So I'm actually going to copy paste Newsella staff as our author. And then I believe the date of publication is on here too. It says April 3rd, 2020. So I'm going to put that in here as well. Oops, on EasyBib. 3 April 2020. And then I'm going to hit complete citation. Sometimes, guys, they'll ask you if you'll watch a video real quick because that's how they make their money, is with these ads. Just hit yes, and then it will bring you here eventually. So then you copy this and you're able to paste that into your Works Cited, which is really cool. All right. So that's how you use those two resources to do it for you, and if you need to, you can reference this. The reason why Mr. O'Brien and I are telling you guys this stuff now before you've even started writing your paper is that we want you to try to create your Works Cited page as you go, as you do your research. Not wait until you're done with the whole paper and then you're like, oh man, I have no idea where any of this information came from, and you have to go back and try to piece it all together. Okay, so please try to do this as you go in the writing process. All right, so not only do you have to use a Works Cited page, but you also have to put after your quotes and your paraphrases something called in-text citations. There are two different types of in-text citations. One is a parenthetical citation, and this is a citation that in parentheses. Notice the word parenthetical sounds like the word parentheses. So here's an example of this. Maybe in your paper you write, butterfly populations have declined in the last decade. Sounds like a paraphrase, right? And you got that from a source with an author whose last name was Miller. You would put the author's last name in parentheses after the fact that came from the source. Okay, that's an example of a parenthetical citation. You can also use something called a signal phrase. Okay, these are, some examples are, according to Dr. Miller, and then you insert your quote or your paraphrase. Another might be, in his work, Refugee, Alan Gratz writes, and then you could quote what he wrote. Here's one more example. According to Dr. Miller, butterfly populations have declined in the last decade. So when you do it this way, you don't actually have to use the parenthetical citation as well. Both of these forms of in-text citations are totally acceptable. A little bit more information about the parenthetical citation. So when you're using a parenthetical citation, you include in the parentheses the first item that appears in the Works Cited entry. Okay, so if we go back to our tips about writing the Works Cited, notice the author's last name is usually the first thing in the Works Cited entry. If you don't have an author's last name, then you default to the next thing, which in this case would be the title of the book. Okay, so that's what this is going to tell you, right? The hierarchy for what to put in the parenthetical citation is first, you want author's last name. The next best would be the article, video, web page, book, title. Okay, here's an example of an article title, which goes in quotation marks in the parentheses. And the third best would be the website or domain name, like cnn.com or newsella.com. But I don't see any reason why you guys would have to put newsella.com because they usually have authors and they always have article titles. All right, a little bit more information about signal phrases. So you use signal phrases as often as possible because they're quick and easy. But you have to make sure that you never, ever, ever, whether in text citations or signal phrases, include URLs in the text. Okay, so you're never going to write in the body of your paragraph. You're not going to say butterfly populations have declined recently according to www.works .com slash right? Because what happens, guys, is URLs are usually about this long. And we really don't want that in the middle of our nice sentence about butterfly populations. It really distracts from the meaning of this sentence, right? So please don't ever do that. Instead, simply write something like CNN.com or the article title or the author's last name. Okay, so your task with the rest of today is to try to do this practice task card, right? Write the parenthetical citation for number 1, write a signal phrase for number 2, write a parenthetical citation for number 3. I'm going to show you how to do the first one. So it says, write a parenthetical citation for this article. This is the same one I had open before, I believe. So if this were the only Newsella article you were using, you would definitely use the author's name. And we've already determined that that is Newsella staff. All right? But if you use several Newsella articles, you can't put this same parenthetical citation in several different places when you got the information from different Newsella articles, right? So instead, you would use this parenthetical citation. Remember, if you don't have author's name, or if you have the same author for several different texts, then you go to the second best thing, which is the article title. So this parenthetical citation is actually going to be the article title, and article titles always go in quotation marks in the parentheses. And it's pretty long, but it's not as long as this URL. All right. Okay. Now you guys try it with numbers 2 and 3 and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend.